Throughout history, artists and creatives have famously struggled with their mental health. Kurt Cobain, Robin Williams, Avicii, Amy Winehouse, Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington, just a small number of high-profile people who have taken their own lives in the full glare of fame. All hugely creative, but all shouldering an inner turmoil that ultimately led to tragedy. This possible connection between mental health and creativity is one that's fascinated psychologists and scientists for decades. So as someone who knows and works with lots of creative people myself, I'm going on a journey to explore the possible link between creativity and mental health and see if I can get some answers. During 2019 in the US and the UK, there have been at least 2.5 billion online searches using the term mental health. A recent survey by a leading independent music charity found that 60% of musicians they spoke to had struggled with their mental health. That number is way higher than the overall average of 25%. So I've met up with Professor Rory O'Connor, Director of the University of Glasgow's Suicidal Behaviour Research Laboratory, and Joe Hastings from the charity Help Musicians UK to see if I can get a clearer picture of the possible connection between mental health and creativity. Can you tell us a little bit more about the research you do and what you've discovered with suicidal behaviour in your own work?
First of all, there's no single reason why people end their lives. Any one of us can become suicidal, but who is most likely to become suicidal? So in Western countries, we know that people who die by suicide, usually about 90% of those individuals will have a mental health problem at the time of death. So somebody asks me, why do people end their life? Yeah, part of it is to do with depression, part of it is to do with disadvantage, part of it is to do with the lack of hopelessness about the future, but at the absolute core, people end their life because they feel trapped. They're trapped by overwhelming mental pain. And that mental pain, that sense of entrapment, the individual feels that they're a burden on others. People would be better off dead.
What's interesting though, and perhaps disturbing, is that the first ever study of suicide that looked at actual professions showed that people who work in arts-related jobs are up to 4 times more likely to commit suicide than people who don't.
Well, there were 2 phases to the research, and in the first phase we were trying to understand the prevalence of people experiencing kind of mental health issues, particularly anxiety, and people who maybe had felt like they were experiencing elements of depression, and the numbers there were very high. So the numbers were hugely significant, and also suggested that there were some challenges that musicians were experiencing that were potentially unique to this profession.
So if there is some evidence, a connection, what might the reasons be behind this?
We know that people who are creative, there's an association between impulsivity and creativity. There's an association between creativity and emotional sensitivity. And emotional sensitivity, impulsivity are 2 risk factors for becoming suicidal. There is some evidence out there, but we need to do much more research.
I've also come to speak with Grant Hutchison from the band Frightened Rabbit, whose brother and bandmate Scott tragically took his own life in 2018 at the age of 36. Since then, Grant has been instrumental in setting up an organisation called Tiny Changes, inspired by Scott's life, designed to support young people with mental health challenges. Grant, thanks for meeting me and joining us. Really appreciate it. There's a lot of people in the music industry that are suffering from mental illness and talk about their experiences through their words. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Scott would never saw it as a sort of cathartic thing. It's not like he wrote about his feelings and his mental health issues and then they went away, you know. I think it's good that people are, and I think Scott especially was very open and honest about it, you know, in interviews, and in his songs. His lyrics were very raw and true. I think it probably helped other people more than it helped him, which is good, you know. I think it's great, but at the same time, it's, you know, I don't know if it was a cathartic thing or he got